The Long Island serial killer, or Gilgo Beach killer, is linked to the murders of at least 10 people, primarily women in the sex trade, over 2 decades. The victims' remains were found along Gilgo Beach in Long Island, New York, beginning in 2010. Despite extensive investigations, the perpetrator remained unidentified, leaving the case unsolved and the community in fear until recent developments. On May 1st, 2010, Shannon Gilbert, a 23-year-old escort, vanished under mysterious and alarming circumstances. Gilbert had been at a client's home on Long Island when she made a frantic 911 call in the early morning hours, claiming she believed someone was trying to kill her.
State police. Yeah, there's somebody after me.
The call, which lasted approximately 21 minutes, captured Gilbert's palpable fear and distress. She was heard telling the 911 operator that there were people after her. She then fled the client's home and was last seen running through the neighborhood, knocking on doors and pleading for help.
Please stop.
The Suffolk County Police Department launched an extensive search for Gilbert, focusing on the area around Oak Beach where she was last seen. Despite their efforts, months passed with no sign of Gilbert. The case grew more complex and garnered significant media attention as the search for her continued. Her disappearance was initially treated as an isolated incident, but it soon became apparent that it was part of a larger, more sinister pattern. In December 2010, during a routine training exercise with a canine unit near Gilgo Beach, a police officer discovered the skeletal remains of a woman. However, these remains were not Gilbert's. Instead, they belonged to one of 4 women found in the vicinity, collectively referred to as the Gilgo 4. The discovery shifted the focus of the investigation and raised suspicions of a serial killer operating in the area. The search for Shannon Gilbert continued alongside the investigation into the Gilgo 4. In December 2011, a year and a half after her disappearance, police found Gilbert's personal belongings, including her purse, cell phone, shoes, and jeans, in a marshy area approximately 8 miles from Gilgo Beach. A week later, her skeletal remains were discovered about a quarter mile from her belongings. Despite the suspicious circumstances of her disappearance and death, investigators concluded that Gilbert likely died from accidental causes, such as hypothermia or drowning, rather than foul play. Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison later stated that they believed Gilbert had run into the marsh and succumbed to the elements. Shannon Gilbert's case remains a pivotal part of the larger investigation into the Long Island serial killings. While her death was not classified as a homicide, it was the catalyst that led to the discovery of multiple victims and the eventual capture of suspected serial killer Rex Heuermann. Gilbert's tragic story continues to be a significant chapter in the ongoing pursuit of justice for all the victims found near Gilgo Beach. In December 2010, police searching near Gilgo Beach found the remains of 4 women. Dubbed the Gilgo 4, these victims were identified as Maureen Brainard Barnes, Amber Costello, Megan Waterman, and Melissa Bartholomew. All 4 women shared several characteristics. They were petite, in their 20s, and working as escorts. The similarities in their profiles and the circumstances of their disappearances pointed to a serial killer targeting this specific type of victim, intensifying the investigation into the Long Island serial killings. Maureen Brainard Barnes, a 25-year-old single mother from Norwich, Connecticut, disappeared in July 2007. To support her 2 children, Brainard Barnes had started working as an escort, advertising her services on Craigslist and other websites. On July 6, 2007, she received a call from a burner phone, a type of prepaid phone often used for anonymity. Over the next few days, there were 16 interactions between her cell phone and the burner phone. This was the last time anyone heard from her. Despite extensive investigation and searches, she vanished without a trace. Years later, her body was discovered near Gilgo Beach as one of the Gilgo Four, linking her disappearance to a suspected serial killer. The use of a burner phone to contact her was a significant clue in the investigation, suggesting premeditation and an attempt to avoid detection by the perpetrator. This case became a crucial part of the investigation into the Long Island serial killings, highlighting the systematic and calculated methods used by the suspect. Melissa Barthélemy, a 24-year-old who had moved from Buffalo, New York to New York City to pursue a career as a hairdresser, supplemented her income by working as an escort. In 2009, nearly 2 years after Maureen Brainard Barnes disappeared, Barthélemy vanished without a trace. Following her disappearance, her family endured a series of harrowing phone calls. Melissa's 15-year-old sister Amanda began receiving calls from Melissa's cell phone on July 17, 2009. Just days after Melissa went missing, the anonymous caller taunted Amanda, making several disturbing and threatening remarks, and ultimately claimed to have killed Melissa. These calls continued sporadically over several weeks, adding to the anguish and mystery surrounding Melissa's disappearance. The nature of these calls provided investigators with crucial information. The use of Melissa's cell phone by the caller suggested that the perpetrator was in possession of her phone and was deliberately contacting her family to torment them. This behavior pointed to a methodical and sadistic individual, further supporting the theory of a serial offender. Melissa Barthélemy's case, marked by these chilling phone calls, was later linked to the Gilgo Beach murders when her remains were found along with the other victims, known as the Gilgo Four. This connection helps shape the ongoing investigation into the Long Island serial killings, highlighting the brutal and calculated nature of the crimes. Megan Waterman, a 22-year-old mother from Scarborough, Maine, was working as an escort when she disappeared. On June 5, 2010, Megan received a call from a burner phone, a type of prepaid phone that allows the user to remain anonymous. This contact marked the beginning of a sequence that would lead to her tragic end. On the night of June 6, 2010, Megan was last seen alive leaving the Holiday Inn Express in Hauppauge, Long Island. Security footage captured her walking out of the hotel around 1:31 a.m. shortly after her phone was contacted by the same burner phone from the previous day. This was the last time she was seen alive. Megan's disappearance bore striking similarities to the other victims found near Gilgo Beach. Like them, she was a young, petite woman working as an escort and had been contacted by a burner phone just before vanishing. These commonalities reinforce the suspicion of a serial killer targeting women with specific characteristics. Her remains were later discovered near Gilgo Beach, along with those of the other victims known as the Gilgo Four. Amber Costello, a 27-year-old escort living on Long Island, vanished on September 2, 2010. Prior to her disappearance, she was contacted by a client using a burner phone, a recurring element in the cases of the other victims. On the night she disappeared, this client offered her $1,500 for an overnight stay, significantly more than her usual rate. Amber's roommate, Dave Scholar, recounted the events leading up to her disappearance. He described the client as having an ogre-like appearance and driving a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche. Scholar noted that the client was unusually persistent, repeatedly calling Amber and eventually convincing her to meet him outside. Without her purse or cell phone, something she typically would not do, on the night of her disappearance, Scholar saw Amber leaving her home around midnight to meet the client in his vehicle. She walked down the street and was never seen again. Scholar's detailed description of the client and his vehicle later became crucial evidence in the investigation. Amber Costello's case fit the pattern seen in the other victims. A young, petite escort contacted by a burner phone, who then vanished without a trace. Her disappearance further solidified the belief that a serial killer was methodically targeting escorts on Long Island, using burner phones to lure them and evade detection. The information provided by Scholar played a significant role in later identifying Rex Heuermann as a suspect in the Gilgo Beach murders. The discovery of 6 additional sets of remains near Gilgo Beach in May 2011 marked a grim escalation in what had already become a haunting series of murders. Among the victims found were Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, a toddler girl, an Asian male, Karen Vergata, and a woman known only as Peaches. This discovery not only increased the total count of victims to 10, but also underscored the scale of the tragedy and intensified efforts to identify and apprehend the perpetrator responsible for these heinous crimes. One of the pivotal figures in this case was Shannon Gilbert, whose disappearance in May 2010 initially sparked the investigation. It was during the search for Gilbert that police stumbled upon the first set of remains near Gilgo Beach in December 2010, triggering a broader search that eventually uncovered the additional victims. Despite the suspicious circumstances surrounding her disappearance and the subsequent discoveries of other bodies, investigators concluded in December 2011 that Gilbert likely died from hypothermia or drowning, not as a result of foul play. The investigation took a significant turn in February 2022 when a renewed focus by a specialized task force led to a breakthrough. The task force revisited old clues, including descriptions of a client resembling an ogre and a distinctive Chevrolet Avalanche, a vehicle repeatedly noted by witnesses like Amber Costello's roommate, Dave Scholar. These details pointed to a pattern in the killer's methods and helped refine the investigation's direction. The use of burner phones emerged as a crucial lead. Investigators traced these disposable phones to a specific area in Massapequa Park, Long Island, known locally as The Box, which was close to where Rex Heuermann resided and worked. This geographical link was significant, aligning with evidence from Heuermann's personal cell phone records that placed him at the same locations as the burner phones when they were used to contact the victims. The breakthrough moment, however, came with the discovery of Heuermann's DNA on a discarded pizza box. This DNA matched samples found on Megan Waterman's body, providing a direct forensic link between Heuermann and one of the victims, coupled with the cell phone evidence placing him at crucial locations and other circumstantial evidence. Heuermann was arrested and ultimately charged with multiple counts of murder in connection with the Gilgo Beach killings. The arrest of Heuermann marked a significant milestone in a case that had haunted Long Island for over a decade. It demonstrated the power of persistence in investigative work, the importance of technological advancements in forensic science, and the dedication of law enforcement agencies and task forces in seeking justice for the victims and closure for their families. As legal proceedings unfolded, the community awaited the outcome, hopeful that those responsible for these brutal crimes would finally be held accountable. The timeline of events surrounding Rex Heuermann's involvement in the Gilgo Beach murders reveals a chilling narrative of crimes committed over several years, beginning with the disappearance of several young women who worked as escorts. On July 14, 2023, Rex Heuermann was formally charged with multiple counts of murder in connection with the deaths of Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. Despite the mounting evidence against him, Heuermann maintained his innocence and pleaded not guilty. He was denied bail and remained in custody pending further legal proceedings. The investigation into Heuermann's activities uncovered disturbing details. Police conducted thorough searches of his properties, including his home and possibly other locations, unearthing crucial evidence that linked him to the crimes. Among the significant findings was Huerman's Chevrolet Avalanche, a vehicle described by witnesses in connection with the disappearances. This discovery corroborated earlier witness statements and provided tangible evidence of Huerman's presence at the crime scenes. By January 16, 2024, Huerman faced additional charges when he was indicted for the murder of Maureen Bernard Barnes. The breakthrough in this case came through DNA evidence. A hair found on Bernard Barnes' body matched DNA from Huerman's family members, suggesting direct physical contact between Huerman and the victim. This first scenic link strengthened the case against him, reinforcing the pattern of his involvement in the murders of these young women. Further developments on June 6, 2024 saw Huerman charged with 2 more murders, Sandra Costilla and Jessica Taylor. These cases, spanning years apart, were connected through DNA evidence and vehicle records that placed Huerman at the scenes of these crimes. Despite the mounting evidence and additional charges, Huerman maintained his plea of not guilty, setting the stage for a complex and highly scrutinized legal battle. Throughout these revelations, the investigation into Rex Huerman highlighted not only the systematic targeting of vulnerable young women, but also the meticulous forensic work that ultimately led to his identification and arrest. The technologies in solving long-standing criminal mysteries. As legal proceedings continued, the families of the victims sought justice, hoping that Huerman would be held accountable for the lives he allegedly took in such tragic and violent circumstances. The investigation into the Gilgo Beach murders spanned over a decade and involved meticulous detective work. The arrest of Rex Huerman brought some closure to the victims' families and highlighted the importance of perseverance in solving complex criminal cases. The ongoing investigations in other locations where Huerman owned property suggest that there may be more revelations to come. Thank you for watching the video, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed.